Richmond trembles. Union ironclads steam upriver, steel hulls cutting Virginia waters like death's blade. One naval officer whispers the unthinkable. Confederate capital falls within hours. Everything hinges on a single river bend. One desperate fort, 200 yards of churning James water. Lieutenant Catesby Jones commands Drewry's Bluff, same officer who fired CSS Virginia's guns at Hampton Roads 2 months earlier. Now he stands atop muddy cliffs, studying 5 approaching warships. His cannons point downward at impossible angles. Everything depends on geometry and courage today. May 28, 1862 dawns, humid and tense. President Jefferson Davis paces Richmond's executive mansion, listening for distant thunder. His government has already packed documents for evacuation. Church bells ring anxiously across the Confederate capital. Citizens crowd rooftops, scanning southern horizons for smoke plumes. The Union fleet carries terrifying firepower, Ironclad Monitor, fresh from Hampton Roads' victory. Galena, with experimental iron plating. 3 wooden gunboats. Commander John Rodgers believes nothing withstands his naval juggernaut. He's promised Lincoln that Richmond falls this week. Confidence radiates from every officer aboard. But Drewry's Bluff isn't just dirt and hope. Confederate engineers spent weeks transforming this natural cliff into something formidable. They've sunk steamships, schooners, and granite-filled barges across the river channel. Twisted metal frameworks pierce murky surfaces. Navigation becomes impossible. Naval power meets immovable obstacle. Jones positions guns with surgical precision. 5 heavy naval rifles command the river bend. Each crew contains former sailors, men understanding trajectories and timing. They've practiced elevation angles for weeks. Every gunner knows his target zone. Silent professionals wait behind cold iron, fingers steady. 700 Confederate soldiers reinforce the Bluff. Sharpshooters nestle behind earthworks. These aren't parade ground troops, they're veterans from Manassas, Seven Pines, Peninsula battles. Their rifles load quickly. Eyes track movement below. Someone jokes nervously. Another checks his cartridge box. Morning stretches into afternoon tension. Monitor approaches first, turret rotating menacingly. This revolutionary vessel terrified CSS Virginia 3 months ago, fought her to standstill. Now she seems invincible. Her captain believes no shore battery threatens his armored champion. Iron confidence meets stubborn Virginia clay. Something must break today. Galena follows closely. Experimental armor untested in serious combat. Commander Rodgers personally commands from her deck. He studied maps obsessively, calculated ranges, anticipated Confederate positions. Victory seems mathematically certain. Richmond's church spires shimmer upstream through humid haze. So close. Just push through this. The sunken obstacles appear suddenly. Pilots aboard Union vessels curse. Reverse engines frantically. Smokestacks belch black clouds. Paddle wheels churn backward desperately. Ships crowd together dangerously, unable to maneuver. Perfect naval formation dissolves into chaotic vulnerability. Jones watches, calculating range. Almost time now. First Confederate shell screams downward at 7:15. The round strikes water beside Monitor, throwing a geyser skyward. Range corrections shout across the bluff. Loaders ram fresh charges. Another gun roars. Then another. Suddenly, the entire battery erupts. Thunder rolls across Virginia countryside. Monitor's turret swivels, seeking targets upward. But her guns cannot elevate sufficiently. Naval architects never imagined fighting cliffs. Her 11-inch Dahlgrens fire uselessly into earthworks. Shells bury themselves harmlessly. The revolutionary Ironclad, terror of oceans, becomes helpless beneath towering bluffs. Innovation meets terrain. Galena moves forward, boldly, attempting to suppress Confederate guns through volume of fire. Her experimental armor seems inadequate immediately. Plunging shells penetrate iron plates, exploding inside wooden hull. Splinters become deadly projectiles. Sailors scream. Blood pools on decks. Commander Rodgers refuses retreat. One Confederate marksman, formerly a hunter from Appomattox County, steadies his rifle against earthworks. He breathes slowly, tracking a Union officer visible through Galena's gunport. Squeeze trigger gently. The rifle cracks. Distant figure collapses. Reload. Another target appears. War becomes personal, intimate, final. Inside Galena's hell, sailors struggle loading guns while shells penetrate overhead. A midshipman, barely 17, clutches bleeding shoulder but continues passing ammunition. His name is Thomas Selfridge. He'll survive today, command vessels for decades afterward. Right now, he simply endures. Character forms under fire. Monitor attempts drawing fire from stricken Galena. Her turret revolves continuously, firing blindly upward toward invisible enemies. But Confederate gunners ignore the impervious target, concentrating on vulnerable vessels instead. Tactical adaptation occurs instinctively. Why waste ammunition on invulnerable iron when wooden ships bleed? The wooden gunboats Aroostook, Port Royal, and Naugatuck hover uselessly downstream. Their light guns cannot reach Bluff positions above. Captains watch Galena's destruction helplessly through drifting smoke. Screams carry across water. Someone suggests ramming the obstacles. Nobody moves forward. Paralysis grips the supporting force. I walk calmly between gun positions, correcting aim, encouraging crews. Shell fragments whine overhead. I ignore danger completely. My gunners take confidence from composure they observe. One cannon overheats. I order temporary ceasefire, water cooling procedures. Professional precision overcomes chaos. Leadership becomes physical presence. Aboard Galena, casualties mount horrifically. 24 shells penetrate her experimental armor during 4 brutal hours of combat. 13 sailors die instantly. 11 more suffer terrible wounds. The deck resembles a slaughterhouse under Virginia sun, yet Rogers refuses withdrawal orders. Pride, duty, or stubbornness? Perhaps all three. A Confederate shell strikes Galena's mainmast, splintering wood like kindling under hammer blows. Rigging collapses across gun positions, trapping men. Sailors frantically clear debris while enemy fire continues relentlessly. One officer later describes the scene. Hell itself couldn't be worse. Yet they continue fighting somehow. Union sharpshooters aboard wooden gunboats attempt suppressing Confederate riflemen positioned above. Long-range duel develops across river waters and elevation. Bullets smack earthworks continuously. Occasionally, someone falls silently. A Virginia private takes a round through his canteen. Water sprays everywhere. He laughs shakily, continues firing upward. Monitor fires 94 rounds upward during the engagement. Perhaps 3 strike Confederate positions with any effect. Her revolutionary design, so effective against CSS Virginia at sea level, proves completely inadequate against elevated fortifications today. Naval innovation meets ancient defensive strategy. Sometimes old solutions trump modern technology. Inside Richmond, citizens crowd riverbanks, listening to distant thunder echoing across hills. Each boom represents salvation or doom for everything they know. Wives clutch children tightly. Old men remember previous wars. Church congregations pray spontaneously. The entire Confederacy's future balances on cliff edges miles downstream. Jefferson Davis finally rides toward the sound of guns despite protests. His military aides object vehemently to presidential exposure. The president ignores them, spurring his horse forward through crowds. He needs witnessing this moment personally, understanding what soldiers face. Leadership sometimes requires physical presence at crisis points. Commander Rogers aboard Galena finally accepts reality staring back through smoke. His vessels shattered, crew decimated, mission impossible to accomplish. He orders retreat at noon reluctantly. Signal flags communicate withdrawal. Other vessels reverse engines gratefully. Smoke drifts across bloodied waters. Confederate gunners cheer hoarsely above. Monitor departs last, turret still rotating defiantly toward invisible enemies above. She's suffered minimal damage but achieved nothing meaningful today. The revolutionary Ironclad limps downstream, tactical failure despite technological superiority everyone assumed. Her crew feels humiliated deeply. They'd expected easy victory. Virginia's rivers teach harsh lessons. Silence descends across Drewry's Bluff like heavy curtain falling. Gunners collapse beside hot cannons, utterly spent. Smoke stings eyes painfully. Throats burn from powder residue coating everything. Someone passes a water bucket around. Hands shake from exhaustion and adrenaline crash. They've saved Richmond through mathematics, courage. I survey my position carefully after battle ends. Only 7 Confederate casualties, remarkable considering 4 hours of intense combat we endured. My guns remain operational and ready. Ammunition stocks adequate for tomorrow. The Bluff holds firm beneath us. I allow myself slight satisfaction finally. Professional competence achieved its objective. Downstream, Galena's crew performs grim tasks nobody volunteers for willingly. Bodies receive burial at sea with brief prayers. Wounded sailors receive morphine for unbearable pain. Carpenters patch shattered hull temporarily with whatever materials remain. The experimental Ironclad will never see combat again. Her design flaws revealed brutally. Union Navy's humiliation spreads quickly through telegraph wires and newspaper headlines. The mighty Ironclad fleet, supposed to crush Richmond effortlessly, retreated bloodied by stationary shore batteries. Lincoln reads reports grimly in candlelight. Naval strategy requires complete revision immediately. Rivers aren't oceans. Terrain matters after all. Richmond celebrates wildly that evening throughout every neighborhood. Church bells ring joyously across the capital. Citizens parade streets spontaneously, embracing strangers. Whiskey flows freely at taverns. President Davis issues proclamation praising Drewry's Bluff defenders personally. The Confederacy gains precious months. But underneath celebration, thoughtful leaders recognize truth. At Drewry's Bluff, exhausted defenders clean weapons mechanically by firelight. Tomorrow requires vigilance again regardless of today's outcome. Enemy fleet still lurks downstream, licking wounds. One veteran sergeant understands clearly, we've won a battle, not war itself. He scrapes powder residue from rifle, thinking about home. Union strategists study maps obsessively afterward, seeking alternative approaches to Richmond. If naval power cannot reach the Confederate capital directly, armies must march overland. General George McClellan receives new orders, take Richmond by land assault. The Peninsula Campaign intensifies dramatically. Naval failure shifts burden to infantry soldiers. I write my official report carefully that night, choosing each word deliberately. Precise language describes gun positions, ammunition expenditure, enemy movements, casualty figures exactly. Professional documentation records history accurately for posterity. But private letters home reveal different story. Exhaustion, fear overcome, satisfaction at duty performed well. Galena's wounded arrive at Union hospitals near Fort Monroe by nightfall. Surgeons work frantically through night, amputating shattered limbs, extracting shell fragments, fighting infection desperately. One sailor survives despite horrific wounds. He'll testify at Rogers' inquiry, later defending his captain's courage under fire. Loyalty transcends failure. Confederate engineers strengthen Drewry's Bluff, immediately following victory here. Additional guns arrive by train and wagon. Earthworks expand higher and deeper. More obstacles sink into river channel deliberately. This position cannot fall. Richmond's survival depends absolutely on holding this cliff against future attacks. Soldiers dig trenches deeper. Monitor returns to Hampton Roads, reputation damaged permanently despite minimal physical harm. She'll patrol Virginia waters until year's end, then sink during a storm off Cape Hatteras. Her crew drowns while rescuers watch helplessly from shore. Revolutionary design proves fatally flawed. Innovation doesn't guarantee survival ultimately. Commander Rogers faces inquiry board weeks later in Washington. Officers question his judgment, persistence under impossible conditions, casualty rates incurred unnecessarily. He defends decisions calmly. Duty required attempting Richmond's capture regardless. Orders demanded compliance absolutely. Failure resulted from terrain, not courage shown. The board censures him quietly. At Drewry's Bluff, routine establishes quickly after battle fades into memory. Guards rotate shifts regularly. Guns receive maintenance daily. Sharpshooters scan river approaches constantly for enemy movements. The bluff becomes permanent fortification, holding until war's final days arrive. 1865 brings different invaders finally. Union Navy learns expensive lessons from defeat here. Shore bombardments require careful planning beforehand. Terrain study becomes mandatory before operations commence. Experimental armor needs extensive testing before deployment anywhere. Naval doctrine evolves through failure more than success. Galena's shattered hull teaches more than victories. Pain instructs effectively. Richmond citizens gradually resume normal life after immediate crisis passes. Markets reopen for business. Businesses operate normally again. Children play streets without fear. But everyone remembers distant thunder, Uncertainties wait, salvation's price paid. The city understands viscerally. Survival hangs perpetually on thin threads. Normalcy becomes precious. Lieutenant Jones receives promotion quietly without public fanfare or ceremony. His superiors recognize competence, tactical skill, leadership under pressure demonstrated. He'll command other positions, survive war's duration, die peacefully decades later. But May 28, 1862, remains his defining moment forever. One perfect battle fought. Confederate newspapers trumpet victory extensively across southern states. Invincible Union Navy defeated. Headlines celebrate David versus Goliath narrative enthusiastically. Morale surges across southern states temporarily. Recruitment increases briefly, but thoughtful readers notice uncomfortable detail. Union fleet withdrew voluntarily. Remain operational, threatens constantly downstream. Union soldiers advancing overland read naval failure reports with mixed feelings about implications. They're relieved. Naval forces couldn't capture Richmond. Easily preserves infantry's importance strategically. Simultaneously, they recognize increased burden falling on them. McClellan's army must finish what Rodgers' fleet couldn't. Responsibility shifts shoulders. At Drewry's Bluff, soldiers write letters home describing battle as they remember it. Details vary wildly between accounts. Some exaggerate danger faced heroically, others minimize personal contributions modestly. Truth fragments into individual perspectives and memories. Historians later struggle reconciling contradictory accounts. Memory proves unreliable always. Official reports provide facts. The sunken obstacles remain visible for years afterward as grim reminders. River pilots navigate carefully around twisted metal, submerged hulls blocking passage. After war's end, salvage crews slowly clear channel laboriously. But physical scars persist longer. Rivers remember violence long after soldiers depart forever. Geography retains history stubbornly. Union Navy redesigns Ironclad specifications immediately following Drewry's Bluff failure. Armor thickness increases substantially. Gun elevation improves dramatically. Deck layouts change completely. Engineers study the engagement obsessively, extracting lessons painfully. Failure drives innovation faster than success ever does. Better warships emerge from Galena's blood spilled. Confederate ordnance officers analyze ammunition performance carefully after battle concludes. Which shells penetrated Galena's armor most effectively? What elevation angles proved optimal against ships? Data informs future defensive positions throughout South. Warfare becomes increasingly scientific rather than intuitive. Professionalism replaces romanticism gradually throughout armies. May 28th becomes legend within Confederate military circles quickly. Young officers study the engagement at academy instruction sessions. Jones's tactical decisions receive extensive analysis and debate. How did inferior force defeat superior enemy so decisively? Answers: terrain selection, preparation thoroughness, psychological factors. Victory proves replicable elsewhere. But legends obscure complexity always, creating myths from facts. Drewry's Bluff succeeded partly through Union mistakes. Poor reconnaissance, inadequate terrain study, overconfidence in technology's power. Confederate victory resulted from enemy errors as much as defenders' skill displayed. Truth complicates heroic narratives. History resists simplification attempts. Union sailors who survived Galena's hell carry memories permanently etched in minds. Nightmares replay shells penetrating overhead, comrades dying, helplessness under plunging fire endlessly. Some develop drinking problems afterward. Others find religion desperately. Wars, psychological wounds resist healing completely. Physical scars prove simpler to bear ultimately. Richmond's strategic importance increases dramatically after Drewry's Bluff holds firm. Confederacy concentrates resources protecting capital obsessively. Armies converge here. Defenses strengthen continuously. The city becomes fortress gradually. But this fixation costs flexibility elsewhere. Defending Richmond drains troops from other critical theaters desperately. Strategic success breeds operational problems. General Robert E. Lee assumes Army of Northern Virginia command partially because Union naval threat diminishes significantly. He can focus on McClellan's overland advance without worrying about ironclads bombarding Richmond simultaneously. Drewry's Bluff enables Lee's aggressive strategy throughout campaign. One battle shapes entire campaigns. Lieutenant Jones never receives public recognition proportional to achievement accomplished here today. Confederacy celebrates the battlefield victories more enthusiastically than defensive successes like this. He remains obscure outside professional military circles throughout life. Effectiveness doesn't guarantee fame or glory. History favors dramatic narratives over competent professionalism. Union Navy continues James River operations cautiously after initial defeat here. Gunboats patrol downstream from Drewry's Bluff, supporting McClellan's army, interdicting Confederate supplies moving upriver. Naval power remains relevant despite tactical defeat suffered. Persistence overcomes setbacks eventually. Navies provide logistical support when direct assault fails. The Bluff's guns fire occasionally throughout 1862 and 1863 against probes. Union vessels test defenses periodically without commitment. Exchanges remain brief. Inconclusive affairs. Stalemate settles across the river between opposing forces. Neither side risks major engagement here again. One decisive battle established equilibrium, lasting years. April 1865 brings Union armies overwhelming Confederate defenses surrounding Richmond, finally. The capital evacuates after 4 years. Drewry's Bluff falls not to naval assault, but land-based encirclement tactics. Defenders spike their guns, retreat westward toward Appomattox. The position held 3 years ultimately proves indefensible against comprehensive strategy. Union forces occupy Drewry's Bluff, examining fortifications professionally with grudging respect. Northern engineers admire Confederate ingenuity displayed. Gun placements, obstacle positioning, earthwork design throughout. Respect transcends enmity between professionals. Soldiers recognize fellow professionals' competence regardless of uniforms. War ends. Mutual acknowledgement begins slowly. Years afterward, veterans gather at Drewry's Bluff occasionally for reunions. Blue and gray uniforms mingle peacefully now. Old enemies share memories, compare perspectives, reconcile, stories told. The cliff becomes reconciliation ground for former foes. Shared experience transcends former hostility completely. Time softens hatred. Understanding replaces anger gradually. Historians debate Drewry's Bluff's significance endlessly in academic journals. Did it merely delay inevitable Confederate defeat? Or did buying Richmond 3 additional years fundamentally alter war's character? Counterfactual questions resist definitive answers always. But participants knew certainty. May 28th mattered desperately. They fought believing everything depended upon it. Monitor and CSS Virginia's Hampton Roads duel receives far more historical attention than Drewry's Bluff engagement. Ironclad versus Ironclad captures imagination more than stationary fortification, defeating warships systematically. Popular history favors dramatic equality over asymmetric competence displayed. Fame proves fickle arbitrarily. Justice eludes historical memory. Yet Drewry's Bluff demonstrates timeless truth about warfare fundamentals. Geography shapes warfare decisively always. Technology cannot overcome terrain disadvantage easily. Naval power requires navigable approaches absolutely. Ancient principles remain valid despite modern innovation appearing. Generals who forget fundamentals lose battles predictably. Some lessons repeat eternally. Lieutenant Jones's descendants preserve family letters describing May 28th carefully. Handwritten pages reveal human details missing from official reports entirely. Fear acknowledged privately. Satisfaction at duty performed. Relief at survival against odds. Personal documents humanize historical events dramatically. Statistics become individuals with names, hopes, fears. The James River flows peacefully today past Drewry's Bluff without remembering violence. Pleasure boats navigate where ironclads once fought desperately. Historical markers explain events briefly to tourists. Visitors photograph earthworks casually with smartphones. Violence fades into landscape eventually. Nature reclaims battlefields silently. Only deliberate memory preserves past. You stand where 200 Virginians stopped the Union Navy through preparation, courage, perfect positioning, where terrain defeated technology decisively, where one lieutenant's competence saved Confederate capital for 3 crucial years. History turns on such moments, desperate defenders atop muddy cliffs, facing impossible odds, refusing surrender. Remember them.